Good day, all you wonderful people. Welcome to Adventure Together. My name's Al, and today I am giving you 10 ways to make your thru hike as miserable as possible. If you're starting a thru hike this year, then you might be looking forward to it and thinking it's going to be a life-defining achievement, which it will be. But if you're wondering how to make your thru hike as miserable as it possibly can be, then I've got 10 things that you can do to make that happen. The first thing that you need to do to make your thru hike as miserable as possible is to keep an irregular sleep pattern. Make sure that you don't get into bed at the same time every night. A different time is where you want to be. Something that you need to make sure that you're doing is staring at your phone screen when you should be asleep. That's really important. If you're a light sleeper, then don't use earplugs, because you want to make sure that you're woken up every time somebody rolls over on their sleeping pad or a bird starts cheeping. Every time you hear twigs breaking around you, you want that adrenaline going and your heart pounding as you think that squirrel or that deer might be a bear. You need to overanalyze every single sound you hear while you're sleeping and thinking that it might be danger. Making sure your body never knows when it's going to get rest is a really important thing to make you miserable. The second thing that you can do to make yourself miserable on a thru hike is to give yourself a tight deadline. Really, any deadline works, but the less time you give yourself to get to a certain place, the better. If you can keep yourself under a huge amount of stress, having to get to a certain place at a certain time really does wonders to make you more miserable. If you can set multiple deadlines, like you have to meet somebody a week from now, and then somebody else in 4 weeks, and then somebody else in 2 months, and then you have to be off trail by a certain time. All these deadlines, multiple deadlines, are fantastic. If you don't have the ability to set yourself multiple deadlines, then one deadline will do, and make sure that that is that you've got to be off trail by a certain date. If you're continually rushing to be somewhere, it means that you can't enjoy the things around you, and it means that you're constantly checking dates and trying to get in a certain amount of mileage each day. Setting yourself these harsh deadlines will do wonders to mess up your mental health. The third thing that you can do to mess up your thru hike is to not save enough money, or the money that you do have, spend most of it as close to the start as you possibly can. If you think that you're constantly running out of money and you're having to budget things and you're worried that your gear's going to fail and you're not going to have the money to replace it, that's fantastic for keeping you under this huge level of stress, where you've always got in the back of your mind that something might go wrong and you might have to call it a day. What's really good about blowing most of your budget is that you might have to go to the hikers around you and ask to borrow money, and most of them don't have the money to be able to lend you, and this will put you under additional stress where you're worried about jeopardizing the friendships that you've made and also getting a bad name on trail. The fourth thing that you can do to make yourself miserable on a thru hike is to not have done any pack shakedown hikes. When you get out there on the first day, you want to still be ripping labels and taking things out of packaging. You want your gear to be so new to you that you have got no idea how to use any of it. There's nothing like rolling up to camp on the first night and trying to work out how to use your stove properly. Another good tip for not using your gear before you go is to make sure that the first day you hit the trail is the first day you've ever tried to pack everything inside your backpack. Have no system whatsoever for packing your gear. Make sure you don't know where to put anything. You're just shoving everything into your pack in any random order, just as long as it closes. That's a fantastic way to make yourself miserable when you are doing a thru hike. The fifth thing that you can do to make yourself miserable when you start a thru hike is to be wearing completely the wrong gear. Make sure that when you go out, you're wearing things like cotton and denim, and you're wearing completely the wrong footwear. Make sure that you haven't got hiking socks, you're just wearing a normal tube sock. Making sure that you haven't got the right equipment for your hike is a great way to make yourself more miserable. Not having the right footwear is brilliant because it makes sure that you get blisters and your feet are completely uncomfortable on rough terrain. If you're wearing things like cotton and denim, they are heavy, they don't insulate you very well, and when you sweat, they hold on to that sweat. When it rains, they hold on to that water. That means that you're going to get really, really cold and risk hypothermia. So making sure that you have the wrong gear and you're wearing completely the wrong clothing is a great way to make yourself more stressed, more miserable, and in fact, you could be risking your own death. The sixth thing that you can do to make yourself more miserable on a thru hike is to maximize your pack weight. Make sure your backpack is as full as it possibly can be. Put the heaviest things in. Completely disregard the fact that you're going to be walking for thousands of miles with a backpack on your back. Take everything that you might need and take everything that you might not need. The more things that you have in your backpack, the better. Have spares of everything. Make sure that you have the biggest medical kit, the biggest repair kit you possibly can have. Make sure that you've got far too much clothing and you're completely over prepared for everything. If you've got a massively heavy pack and you're walking up huge hills and over rough terrain, having that extra weight in your pack is really going to do well to make you miserable. The seventh thing that you can do to make yourself as miserable as possible when you hit the trail is to get angry at all the things that are outside of your control. Make sure that you're getting angry at the weather. Make sure that you're getting angry at the terrain. Make sure that you're getting angry at the heat or the cold. If it's raining, then make sure you're angry with that. If you're getting angry at the fact that there are stones and rocks and your feet are getting sore, then that's brilliant for making you stress and making you miserable. If there's mud and your feet are getting wet or your shoes are completely soaked through and won't dry, that's something brilliant to make sure that you get as angry and stressed as possible. The eighth thing that you can do to make yourself more miserable is to stop walking and spend multiple days at the same camp spot. There's nothing like being lethargic, especially when you've set yourself a deadline. Take some weight off your feet and spend multiple days sitting still, watching lots of other hikers pass through while you're just sat in your tent being miserable on your own. If you can stop beating yourself up and feeling useless while you're stuck at the same campsite, then that's even better. Stay at a shelter, stay at a campsite, stay in the woods and watch people pass you while you're sat doing nothing. If at all possible, to maximize the amount of misery that you can get from staying in the same campsite for multiple days at once, try to do everything inside your shelter. Make sure that you're eating and cooking and sleeping all in the same position. If you're tucked up in your sleeping quilt or your sleeping bag on your sleeping mat and you're doing everything in the same spot for multiple days without going anywhere, that is a great way to maximize the misery. The ninth thing that you can do to make yourself as miserable on trail is the flip side of that, and that is to keep hiking. Don't give your body any rest whatsoever. Don't take zeros, don't put your feet up. Make sure that you're twinning points 1 and 2 together with this point as well. Make sure that you're not giving your body enough rest. Hike as many miles as possible. Try and reach that deadline as quickly as you possibly can do. Leave all of your friends behind. You don't need them. It's you that's got the deadline, so you need to carry on hiking. 40 miles a day is brilliant, but 40 miles a day on 2 hours sleep is even better. Make sure that you're taking pride in not taking zeros, so that when anybody else mentions that they've had a zero or they plan to zero, that you can start mocking them and completely alienate yourself and be seen as one of the biggest dicks on trail that you can be. And the 10th thing that you can do to make your thru hike as miserable as possible is to completely disregard everything about the trail and make it only about getting to the end of it. The more lookout spots that you miss, the better. The more side trails, waterfalls and monuments that you disregard, the better. Completely keep your eyes on the prize, and that is head down, looking at the trail and going forward. Don't think about anything that could make you enjoy the trail at all. Make sure that you're just ignoring everything around you. Don't make a tramway, don't make friends, don't talk to anybody. Head down, walk. You're getting to the end of this trail, and if you can get there faster, then that is better. Remember that if you can gloat about how miserable your hike is, that means that it is better than everybody else's hikes. If your hike is harder and makes you sadder and more stressed and more on edge, and you come away with less hair and more wrinkles than you started with, then that means that your hike completely blows everybody else's out of the water. They didn't have as good as hike as you did because they didn't suffer as much as you did. So that's it, that's my list. Are you planning to go on a thru hike? Tell me in the comments down below how you plan to make it as miserable as you possibly can do. If you like this video, please leave a like. Please consider subscribing and share this video to anyone that you know that likes camping, hiking and adventure travel. And for now, that's it from me. Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you in the next one. If you can piss most of your budget up the wall in the beginning, that's brilliant.